This is CS952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design. So we just finished putting all the parts in place for our fancy box. Now we can actually start to use it. So let's open up our home page. And as you recall, our home page is our index page, right? So let's double click on that. And I'm going to scroll down. I'm in split view, so we have live view up here at the top and we have our code down here at the bottom. And what I want to do is I want to work with this text that says the humble pencil. That text right there. So I've highlighted it in my live view section, and here in code view I can also see that it's kind of grayed out, but I actually want to make sure that that is fully selected by highlighting it in code view. Okay, the humble pencil. Now I'm going to link this text to an image. Now we know how to do this. We covered links fairly extensively in Module 5, and then in Module 6 we learned how to create a link to an image, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a link to an image. So with the text selected, here in the Properties Inspector where it says Link, I'm going to click on the folder that says Browse for File. I'm going to open up my Images folder, and I want to look in my Gallery folder. And this is the image I'd like to use, this nice picture of the 4 pencils. So I've got that selected, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Alright, so now this text links to this image. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to give it a title of 4 pencils. I'm going to give it a target of blank, which means it's going to open up in a new page. Now let's go and let's choose, I hit Save All. Let's preview in Chrome. Okay, so if I scroll down and I click on the humble pencil, what should happen is it should open up that image in a new page. And it does. Nothing too surprising there. I'd like, instead of having the image to open up in a new page, I'd like to use my fancy box, Lightbox. So how do we activate fancy box for this text, the humble pencil? It's pretty easy to do. I'm back in Dreamweaver, and all I need to do is give this link that we've created, I just need to give it a class of fancy box, right? Because in our initialization script we said anything that's got a class of fancy box, boom, I want you to run the fancy box function on it. The fancy box, you can think of it as a little fancy box accessory program. So I could, since I've got, you can see the text is highlighted here in my Properties Inspector. There's my class attribute. I could click on this and select fancy box. There are a lot of classes to scroll through because we've got all the Bootstrap classes, we've got fancy box, we've got font awesome added, plus our own custom styles. Here's another way we can do it. Here in live view, I've got this text selected. You can see the little A there that indicates this is an anchor. If I hover over the plus sign, it says add a class or an ID. That's what we want to do. We want to give this a class of fancy box. So if I click on my little plus sign now, it expands. I can start to type in. I'm going to type in a period, and as soon as I do that, Dreamweaver shows me all of my available classes, right? Because a class, we know classes are period and the name of the class. So the class fancy box is period fancy box. The ID icons 3 is going to be # icons 3. We're looking for a class. If I was looking for an ID, I could type in the # and we get a list of all of our existing IDs, but I'm going to type in a period, and then I'm going to start to type in fancy box. I don't have to type in too much, FANC. Okay, Dreamweaver now limits our selection to only classes of fancy box. And the one that we want is just fancy box, right? We just said class is equal to fancy box. So let's select that. And when I do that, we can now see here in our Properties Inspector it says class is equal to fancy box. If I look at the actual code, we can see that it says class equals fancy box. So let's preview in a browser. I'm going to go over here, and I could hit F12 or just select Preview in Chrome. Do you want to save changes? I'll say yep. So now let's see what happens when I click on the humble pencil this time. There we go. Isn't that looks so much better. This looks like a modern website. We've got our image opening up in a light box. This is a modal, where a window that opens up on top of another window. We've got this nice little X close icon. This is why we needed those images in the proper folder, so that this icon would be displayed and allow us to close it. So you can see how this is so much nicer and a better user experience than what we had the other way. So that's working on our home page. what about adding this to our gallery page? We know actually, in a way, it's even easier to do in our gallery page. So let's go back to Dreamweaver. So we know that FancyBox is working. We were able to test it out on our home page. I'm going to close my home page and go back to our gallery page. Now our gallery page, we've got all these images. I'm going to click on one of the images, and recall that we were able to style all of our images by creating a selector photo gallery image, right? If I go over here to my CSS designer, and under my sources I'm going to choose my styles, and I'm going to go to global, and I want to look for photo, PHO. Here we go. So Dreamweaver's showing us, here are our selectors, right? So we had all these selectors that said to target an image which is a child element of another element that has an ID of photo gallery. And back in week number 3 we described this as a descendant selector. So it's an image that's a child element of another element that has an ID of photo gallery. And that describes every image on this page, right? Because all of our images are inside of a div called photo gallery. So if I look through here, I can see in my DOM panel, here's my div with an ID of photo image, and then inside of that are all my images. So this selector, # photo gallery image, that is a way that we can target all of the images on this page. And remember, the great thing about jQuery is it lets us use ordinary CSS selectors to target things. So again, I've kind of done a little bit of the work for us. If we go to our tutorial folder, and if you don't have it open, open up the text files, and let's do a little search for FancyBox again. Okay. So if I scroll down, in this case for me, this is line 165, and it says jQuery to add FancyBox functions. And if we look at this, we can see # photo gallery img. That is exactly the same selector we used to target all of those CSS rules. Now we're going to use that same selector for FancyBox. Okay, so I've got my code selected. I'm going to right click and hit copy. I'm going to go back to my gallery page. Now in this case, this code, we're only going to use it just on this page. This code is specifically for images inside of the photo gallery, and this is only the case. This is only happening on our gallery page. So looking here in my DOM panel, in my body, inside of my body tag, you can see at the very end, sorry, I didn't mean to open that up, we have an editable region. And this is this editable region that we really haven't used up until this point. This is a place where we can put code, some JavaScript, that's only going to be used on this particular page. So I'm going to click to put my cursor right inside of this editable region. And this would be really hard to find because we called this editable region add script, but we got rid of the placeholder text that said add script, right? So it's kind of invisible. But in our DOM panel, we can see instance editable. So again, I'm going to hit the enter key a couple times, give myself some room, and I'm going to hit paste. And here is my code. So let me highlight all this code and let me move it on over a little bit. I'm going to hit refresh. And we'll just talk a little bit about what this code does. First, you'll recognize the document ready, which says don't execute this code until the document is ready. Then you'll notice that we've got $signs, meaning that every command we're using is jQuery. The $sign, remember, is a shortcut for jQuery. So what we're saying is use the jQuery each function, which is going to target each one of what? Each image that's inside of the photo gallery, right? And so what's it going to do? It's going to find every image inside of the photo gallery, and it's going to give it a class of FancyBox. This is how we use jQuery to automatically give every image a class of FancyBox. So we don't have to go in and do all that editing like we did on the home page. Then not only does it give every image a class of FancyBox, it also makes it belong to the same group, which will allow us to skip from one image to the next, and it takes that title attribute that we provided and lets it show up as the title of the image as well. So all that coding, that hand editing that we did on the home page, we don't have to do that ourselves 8 times or 24 times to set all these attributes on the gallery page, jQuery is going to do it for us. So we're ready to go. We're going to click over here. We're going to choose Preview in Chrome. We're asked, do you want to save the changes? We'll say, yep. Now, here we are on our gallery page. What happens when we click on Bendy Pencil? Now, Bendy Pencil opens up. And the title here, Bendy Pencil, that's the title we gave it. And because we set these to a group, we've got these little right and left navigation buttons. So I can click on my left navigation button. And look at that. I can cycle through all of the pictures we have on this page. And they've all got the titles that we gave them. When we gave them the titles, there's a pencil factory. There's lots of pencils. There's 4 pencils. And we're back to our home image. And then we can click there to close that up. So that was so helpful. We used jQuery to do all of that extra coding for us and to really bring our gallery page to life. And we're going to move on. We've got one more thing that we want to do to kind of end up sprucing up our page, and that's going to be working with our jQuery audio player.